Welcome to the LZ Sports Show. I am one of your hosts, just one. I am Mark Adam, here with you out of the WPG Sports HQ, which, as I've mentioned before, is my basement. Yeah, not my mom's basement. I'm a successful guy. But I'm also joined by my buddy here, Keith McKnight, all the way from his home. So keeping it socially distanced and safe. Be safe out there yourselves. And here you are, sir. How's it going over there, Keith?
I'm good, Mark. How are you today?
I'm
Game
great.
left and lots to talk about. I hope your day was good. How was your day?
My day was good. I'm really excited about talking about that game yesterday, even though it did end up in a loss. So why don't we go right ahead and we'll jump right into it. I do want to let you know that you can follow us on all the social medias, the WPG Magazine, at the WPG Magazine for Twitter or Instagram. And if you're trying to get us on YouTube, it's wpg.news/YouTube. Do like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. I can't tell you how much it makes me feel good when I get a notification saying new subscriber. It means we're doing something right, or you guys think that we're terrible enough to be funny. Either way, we're just fans talking about the sports here. So myself and my counterpart Keith, we're going to just keep going. That said, you can also give us a call and let us know what your opinion is by calling the WPG Sports line right now. That's 431-800-4555. Leave a message and we will use those messages on future episodes of the show. What is your opinion on blah, blah, blah? If you check on the Winnipeg Jets Reddit, I did post up there a question of the day, but I did it a little late, so I don't think we got any hits on that yet. Not a big deal. We're just going to keep plugging away. And let's get to it, shall we? Let's have a quick look at the stats from last night before we get going. 4-3 loss for the Jets. A little bit disappointing in overtime. 38 shots for the Toronto Maple Leafs. One shy of the 39 they had the other night. And the Jets improved in their shots on goal, but came out one goal shy. 44% in the face-off circle. That's up 10% from the previous game for the Jets, or down 10% if you're looking at it from the point of view of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But if you're doing that, why are you here? We also, the penalty minutes, again, just under 4 minutes for each team every time these guys play. This whole rivalry, this whole matchup is all about speed versus speed. Lots of hits from the Jets, 30-18. Didn't seem to matter, though. They just could not outscore the Maple Leafs. They did score first, which is a change, but they end up giving up that goal. Let's look at the score sheet. Nikolai Ehlers, the hero on the night. Almost the hero. I mean, they lost. But, Nikolai Ehlers, 2 really nice goals. And he set up that Stastny goal. So, I mean, what else do you want from this guy? He's the player of the game for me, for the Jets, bar none. Hellebuck, I thought, played a great game too. He would be in the running for player of the game for me too. But I would say first star, Ehlers. Put in all the effort, fixed all the little things that he did wrong in the previous game, played a much better defensive effort this game, I thought. And unfortunately, the Jets just couldn't pull it out. So thoughts on that, Mr. McKnight?
They just literally couldn't. And when the Jets I'll backtrack a little bit if for the beginning of the game and so on. But the second I saw the Jets go down by a goal, I was like, don't get worried. If you're a fan, if you're not a fan, if you're a sports writer, whatever it may be, when the Jets are down a goal, they play their best hockey. And we saw that. But at the same time, I think with the overtime loss they suffered, I think it's time that they really stop worrying about that. Because, you can praise a team for all you want to about that, but you cannot expect, every single time that you're down, why do you want that to happen? I don't care if it's if it's a habit for you, that's probably something you shouldn't make a habit of. So yesterday when the Jets were down, and by that one goal, I personally did not. I wasn't uptight. I wasn't worried. I was like, they're going to tie this game. They're going to go to overtime. However, I'll take a lot of heat from this, from many callers, from many fans, from many comments. When it went to overtime, I went into overtime very worried that the Jets were going to lose the game. And I was like, I don't know, because on a positive note, I felt that Winnipeg is now finally being taken seriously from every coaching staff, scouting department, and playing roster, right? And yesterday, I think we saw that from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, they played against the Winnipeg Jets, that they are truly a contender. They're truly a Lord Stanley Cup contender is where I was trying to go with that. And you saw that from them. And the other thing I was going to think about, explain, is like when Morgan Riley broke his stick. Hockey and basketball are two different things. It's like there's no back over. You can move anywhere on the ice. You can move the puck anywhere. And when Morgan Riley broke his stick, he was smart. He was like, hey, forget about a line change. Just give me a stick. And he found himself in a position to just get the puck. And then Austin Matthews was in a scoring position because it was a 2-on-1. It wasn't that opportunity that you were showing everyone with the highlights where Nathan Beaulieu took out, who was it that he took out on the boards? And then Kyle Connor looked back at the bench. It's like, okay, well, what just happened here?
That was Mikheyev. He took out Mikheyev when Hyman was coming in with the puck, and that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Not that Beaulieu was the only one, I suppose, because what happened there, he didn't play last night. He didn't play at all. He wasn't in the game. He was hurt the game before, and the Jets still gave up 3 breakaways in the first 40 minutes alone. So you can't pin all of that on Beaulieu. Yes, you can look at his play and go, here's some real exposed areas for this kid, but he's hurt and he's not in the lineup. So the Jets have to step up and show why they're better than the previous guys. You never want to see a guy get hurt, but Beaulieu's out of the lineup. You want to see Logan Stanley take advantage of that, and the rest of the guys need to show that they deserve to be there too. And giving up 3 breakaways, and I mean, against Toronto, fair. They're really fast, very skilled, very heads up. All it takes is you blinking at the wrong time to miss what's happening. They're so quick at turning the puck around and going the other direction. They got him behind the defense 3 separate times where Hellebuck had to bail them out each time. So you don't want to be giving up that many breakaways in any game, but especially against the Toronto Maple Leafs, who it doesn't even matter who's behind you. They're probably one of the best players in the league, right? Their entire roster is just that way. So that was an unfortunate sort of situation, I thought. Tell me what you thought of the overtime, though.
Before I go to that, because when you said that, no matter who's on the Toronto Maple Leafs roster, it's like, for example, it's like Connor Hellebuck. I don't want to use the word threatened, because he's not threatened. He's a Vezina Trophy earner, and he's a Vezina Trophy recipient. So yesterday in that game, when Joe Thornton took that shot on him, Connor Hellebuck wasn't threatened, but he was very aware. He was like, okay, this is a good player who's going to maybe take a shot, and you have to give credit to Connor Hellebuck. Like yesterday, it's like when Austin Matthews went, okay, so now to answer your question about the overtime, we spoke about this in the last game, that when you go backhand, it's like you have to have a lot of space, because you never know where that puck could end up. And these guys are so elite. Even ladies, like in the National Women's Hockey League, like when you're close to the net, it's like your stick may have to be down a little bit more, or you need more space just to keep your stick wherever it may be and to raise that puck. And Austin Matthews, being elite as he is, and he was able to, forget about saying dangle, forget about saying stick handle his way out of a phone booth. He literally just pulled a move on the Winnipeg Jets defender. I can't even remember who exactly it was. And then when he was able to beat that Jets defender, he had enough space and time to raise that puck and just put it in the net. And he just did that so confidently. So when they did that in overtime, I'm not surprised that he scored. Am I surprised the Jets lost? Yes, I'm surprised the Jets lost, because they're a good team.
What do you think about the 3 players, though? The 3 players that Maurice put out there, all 3 forwards, the top line in Scheifele, Wheeler, Stastny. Do you have any issues with who he put out there for that overtime period?
Nothing. I'm not a baseball umpire, but let me tell you this. I'll give you the signal of safe right now. It is he didn't do anything wrong. Those guys are great players. And Paul Stastny, I can't get enough of Paul Stastny. I know Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Blake Wheeler and Connor Hellebuck are the guys that in the sense of like the media, they're all the guys to be talking about, but like you can't forget about a grinder, like grinder, yeah, how cliche is that? But Paul Stastny is like he gets work done for this team. Like if you want to talk about pucks deep, if you want to talk about hitting players, if you want to talk about getting other guys involved, Paul Stastny, like, okay, no disrespect to anybody else who's wearing a letter on this team for the Winnipeg Jets. I think it's safe to say Paul Stastny is worthy of wearing a letter on his jersey.
And that's fair enough, and I appreciate that too. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you. I think for that, I have no problem to start off with three players, three forwards being played on the 3-on-3 overtime. I have no problem with that. But it needs to be the right three. And I don't think that Wheeler, Stastny, and Scheifele together as a unit is the right three to put out there. You got three guys that are workhorses, but they don't quite have that blazing speed that Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor have. And even Pierre-Luc Dubois is a great skater. I get Paul Maurice's point that you want to go with the guy who's going to win the face-off. So you put Scheifele out there. No problem with that. Wheeler and Scheifele have amazing chemistry. No doubt. Put Wheeler out there. But and no offense to Stastny, but if you're going to put those two guys out there, you can't put Stastny too. Because there's no defense. There's nobody behind you. You need that speed, and you need somebody who's got a shot that has both a quick release, high accuracy, and I think Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers both fit the bill. They're both extremely fast, so all of a sudden the play turns around. Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers can catch almost anybody headed the other direction.
Well, now you got me thinking. It's like, speed kills, and in this day and age now, that's what the hockey game is about in the NHL. It's about speed. So you've got my wheels turning now, because as much as I like Paul Stastny, it's like now you made big sense about it. It's like, well, why wouldn't you put Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers? Like, forget about Kyle Connor for just 1 second, because Nikolai Ehlers was on a 3-point streak. 3-point game last night with 2 goals, 1 assist. When a guy or even any lady on any team has 2 goals, I think there's, no matter what level you're playing at, everybody's pushing for that individual to get that 3rd goal. So you took me back by this. Like, maybe Paul Stastny and Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler maybe shouldn't have been the 3. Like, why didn't you put Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers? Because Nikolai Ehlers was on a very big and dominant tear.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Nikolai Ehlers, and some of the argument was like, oh, well, Stastny scored that goal late. He was riding a hot streak. He was going with some momentum. I'm like, Nikolai Ehlers scored both of your first goals, and then it was his shot that Stastny redirected that went in the net for the 3rd goal. So, I not putting Nikolai Ehlers out there to start that overtime period, I think, was the downfall. I think that was a big mistake. And I get that once overtime hits and you're 3-on-3, your lineup doesn't matter. You're not rolling line after line after line. You need your best 3 players, not even your best 3 players. Because we could argue all day about who are the best 3 players and why and da-da-da. But you need the best 3-player combination you can put together. And I like Paul Stastny. He played a great game last night. I don't think he's the guy. I just don't. And
that's okay. And
call me crazy, but I just don't think he's the guy.
I don't want to say I agree or disagree, but I get where you're coming from with your disagreement about Paul Stastny, because last night, maybe the overtime period, it's like when you head into overtime, things can happen just way too fast. There's so much space on the ice. It's almost like when you're playing pickup hockey, and then on a Wednesday afternoon with Rick's Ransom that I play with, when it starts to dwindle, there's like, oh, look at all the ice, look at all the space on the ice. And when you only have 6 individuals on the ice, yeah, and I don't know, you really got me confused in a good way. Like, I'm not here trying to throw a shot at Stastny or you about what you were explaining now. But when you have a guy like Nikolai Ehlers who's about to score a hat trick, why wouldn't you put him on the ice for that? And you need that speed.
You need the speed, the guy who's hungry for it, the guy who's got a proven quick release with speed, like accuracy. He's the full package when it comes to a 3-on-3 situation. He's your dream player in a 3-on-3. Him and Patrick Laine, you always want them on the ice on 3-on-3. 4-on-4, it's the same thing. You got that extra little bit of ice. Those are the guys you want in the game. I'm sorry. And I really think that, and I like a lot about what Paul Maurice is doing. I just thought that was an interesting coaching decision that I wouldn't have made given the tools at my disposal. And I think had they scored during that little scramble there when he had to go get his stick.
Yes. So let me pause you there for a quick second. I got 2 questions to ask you. Now, do you think that when you speak about that, like he had to go get a new stick, it just like things happened a little bit too quickly for the Jets? Is that safe to say? Where they kind of were just like, oh my God, we lost our food.
Well, things happened in a hurry there, but at the same time, they were on the ice for the entire thing, right? Like it wasn't like they weren't even headed for a change. They were up the ice, back down, up the ice, back down, got scored on, right?
Yeah.
And that's a long shift 3-on-3. That's a lot of ice, a lot of skating, a lot of hard work. I just think, and I made the point before, like just a few of those younger legs would have been nicer. And I'm not calling, Scheifele old by any means, but he's got legs that'll go for a long time, but they're not the right speed. And then you got Wheeler, who's getting a little older, who doesn't play the same at the end of a game as he does at the beginning. Let's put it that way. So I just don't think that was the combination they needed to use. We are going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from a sponsor, and we'll be right back with a few other things, and then we'll start talking about whatever we like. So we'll be right back after this.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Thank you for rejoining us here, and thank you to our sponsor, Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. Really appreciate them quite a great deal. So we were just talking about that overtime period, and I think we've talked about all we can about that. I think we're...
Let me ask you my second question, because I had and this is the reason why I'm going to interrupt a little bit, forgive me, because I had a chance to talk with one of our viewers and readers for the Winnipeg magazine, Alvin Garton. And he was, I brought it up to him that you wrote that article, Mark, about, when that, the trade happened for Patrick Laine. You wrote that article about is Nikolai Ehlers stepping out of the shadow of Patrick Laine, which when you put that article up, I was like, maybe this is true. Last night, it's showing that. Now I had the chance to talk with Alvin, and Alvin was saying, do you think that even though Patrick Laine is gone, do you think Nikolai Ehlers is still being overlooked because he's small? And I said, you know what, I'm going to ask Mark this. The next time I speak to him, let it be on air or behind the scenes.
I think he's being utilized the way he should be. I think certain situations, like last night's overtime, I would have put him out there. I think not going with Nikolai Ehlers does your entire team a disservice. But I also think that there are some situations that he's not the ideal guy. You want Blake Wheeler, Adam Lowry. You want those bigger frames out there, but it depends on what the purpose is. You know? So It's not an easy yes-no. I'm a huge Ehlers fan. I make no bones about it. I loved him back in Halifax when I was there, and then I moved here, and he moved here, and it was serendipity.
Divine intervention. It was great.
I like to say that I brought him with me.
Years.
But anyway, Moving on. Trevor Lewis played his 700th game in the NHL last night for the Winnipeg Jets. So let's have a look at his little career. 700 games played as of last night, 71 goals, 95 assists. He's got 166 points. He's got 79 playoff games under his belt. So that's a great guy for them to pick up, especially hoping to make the playoffs this year. I think Trevor Lewis was a great addition to this club, and I think that he's getting all the recognition he needs to. 23 playoff points, not shabby either. So congratulations to Trevor Lewis on that accomplishment. That is quite the feat. Playing any number of games that end with a 0-0 is impressive, but that 7's getting up there. Got a ways to go to catch up to Joe Thornton, but
I have a lot of respect for him. With coming in with the cup experience and the cup earnings that he's
two cups with the Kings, 2012, 2014.
Forgive me, Lord Stanley, but that's what you should call it, is Lord Stanley. And when they bring in that type of experience, and Paul Maurice, when he sees guys like Josh Morrissey and Nikolai Ehlers grow through the system. I had heard this on Let It Be, different radio markets or newspaper outlets, that he says that, you see them the years go by and you're like, oh wow, this is a man coming in now to my office. And you're seeing that, and I just want to pay homage and respect to these guys. They're really playing some really, really good hockey right now, and they're growing into what they're trying to cultivate, and also have been attempting to cultivate for years here in Winnipeg. And you see a lot of these players selling out to what the coaching staff is trying to accomplish with them. And you see that the ownership group behind the scenes believes in this coaching staff, and they clearly – I'm going to take a lot of heat for this, Mark, and I'll let you take the mic after this. But, Kevin Cheveldayoff might be one of the only general managers in any professional sport that has been with a team for so long without a championship. 10 years is a long time to be involved with the same team without a championship. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to...
That's fair, and that's fair. Yeah. I might temper your statement with the fact that the Jets have had a lot of success.
Please, sorry, cut you off. Start that over, because I'm not trying to get Kevin fired. It's just, you know what I mean? Yes.
There are calls for Paul Maurice to be fired, after the loss to the Leafs last night, and it just every time somebody says, "Oh, I think we should get rid of Paul Maurice," their reasoning is just unsound. There's some other members of the coaching staff maybe that you could shuffle around, but I think Paul Maurice is an anchor for this club. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is a wizard as far as the way he's been able to trade players and move players around and take advantage of certain situations. The Trouba trade, getting Neil Pionk, come on, that's amazing. That trade has already been good for the Jets, and it also came with a first-round pick, which will become a good thing for the Jets in the long term. So I think we have, waiting in the wings, we have some players that would be on second and third lines on other clubs, because our depth chart is so deep. And I hate hearing people talk about getting rid of Cheveldayoff or getting rid of Paul Maurice, because their continued progress. If a team doesn't win a playoff, win the playoffs for 10 years, that might be bad. But when you look at it and the team gets better every single year, then I think that doesn't speak to a group that needs to be replaced. I think give them a little more time. They literally have yet to have a year where they don't feel like they got better.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily translate into playoff success every year. Sometimes you just run into a hot team, and then they turn around and win the cup anyway. So you're like, well, we lost to the champs, so hard to argue, So
it is hard to argue because, I'm a little blown away by it. It's just it's a stat, and it's almost a little bit of piece of homework I should look at myself doing. It's like, being involved with a team for almost 10 years and still, he's only have one conference finals to show for everything that and that's just the way it looks. When I say it just has to show, like, who am I? Who is Winnipeg sports? It's just like, from a professional sports standpoint, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of homework here. Like, it's like, how long do general managers really get a chance to stay with the team for so long?
That would be. I would be interested to know what the average,
what the average may be.
tenure is. But just let's get back real quick to that game last night, just because Toronto was absolutely desperate to avoid a 4-game losing streak. They were already on a season high 3-game losing streak. They did not want to extend that to 4, and you saw the desperation in them. And then Austin Matthews takes that on his back in the overtime and just makes it happen. So
the desperation. I love the word that you used there, because as I was watching the broadcast via TSN, I'm not trying to give them a plug, but it's just that was the media outlet that was there. When Mitch Marner celebrated, and I'm pretty confident that the announcer, whoever it was, I'm not sure who it was at this point, and it said, "Oh, this is his first goal." I don't know if it was 4 or 6 games. Mitch Marner celebrated, and I get it that you haven't scored in how many games? Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, whatever it may be. Mitch Marner is such he's such a loved player. Everybody will buy his jersey, and he's so well respected. But he celebrated yesterday when he scored that goal, like he scored his first goal that he has not ever scored in his life.
Well, when you get that, when you're a player like Marner and you get that slump, you just the pressure that is relieved when you finally get that goal. I would have celebrated the same way, to be honest.
I got to challenge you on that. It reminded me of D3, the Mighty Ducks, Coach O'Ryan. That's what he scored before. When the Ducks in that movie, when they went to Eden Hall Academy in D3, where it's like, you scored before. I was like, well, you know what, Mitch, I get it. That, like, you've been in a slump, but, like, man, maybe just take a deep breath. And I don't want to say I lost respect for the guy, but I was like, man, come on, Mitch.
I lost respect for the guy. I think that's a little
harsh. I'm not going that far. But I know, he's such an elite player, and he's such, he's such a touted player. Like, everybody likes him. And I was like, Mitch, come on, relax, man. You're better than that. It reminded me of me when I celebrated on a Friday night pickup game, and Coach Fred was like, "Oh, Steve, don't celebrate, because it's just like you're playing pickup, and it makes the goalie feel bad."
I mean, that's fair. You don't want to make anybody feel bad, but at the same time, you score a goal, and if it's not something that you're used to doing, you got to take advantage of the opportunity to.
Yeah. Let me just. So where my mind's at, it's like it's not something you're used to doing. Mitch Marner is not a guy who's not used to scoring goals. He is an all-star, and I just like. Okay, let's just leave that there. Let's move on from that. What's next here for us and our fans?
Okay, all right. Moving on. The only other game that was happening in the North Division action last night was Montreal-Calgary. Calgary took that one 2-1. Montreal is in a lot of trouble, I think, this year. If they keep dropping games, they should win. And
is Bergevin under the telescope, as I'm trying to make the best impression right now? Is Mark Bergevin under, because he's been there for a long time. Forget about Chevy. Let's talk about him. Talk about general managers.
You know what? I don't know. They just made the switch. They got rid of Claude Julien. They put in Dom Ducharme. I think it's too early to start really abandoning ship, but they do need to start plugging some holes. And by that, I mean they really need to. The team, they either need to make Dom Ducharme their head coach and stop calling him interim, or they need the next guy to be hired, right?
Like, quickly. There's enough of this interim, or let Dom Ducharme know that, hey, look, like, you'll be the head coach until the end of the season. Let's just call it there. So that way the media can't give them any scrutiny. Dom Ducharme doesn't have to worry about anything about who's getting interviewed. And then as a fan standpoint, like, I play hockey with 2 individuals who, like, are just big fans of the Montreal Canadiens. And they're like, oh, like, what Mark Bergevin has done to this team, like, maybe as a fan for the Habs, maybe no one's happy. And now it's showing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, they got to do something. Calgary took that one. And neither of those teams are on the NHL's top 10 right now. Let's have a quick look at the top 10, actually, the way that I see it. Obviously, you see the numbers there on the left where the actual placements are, Toronto being number one in the league, of course. But and the other thing about people panicking about Winnipeg, we're top 10 in the entire NHL. We're second in the division behind an absolutely stacked Toronto Maple Leafs, and we're still in the top 10. We're still second. We have an opportunity to finish Toronto. If they win tomorrow night, there's an opportunity for the Jets to finish with 5 out of 6 in Toronto and potentially 7 out of 10 in the road trip by winning tomorrow. Because
so why are we?
Well, they've already got their 5 points that they need to make 500 on the trip, right? Potential 10 points on this trip with 5 games. They've already got 5 of those points, and they've got a game to go against probably the most dangerous team in the league right now.
Forget about Toronto being dangerous. Is it not safe to say, Mark, let me ask you this question. Is it not safe to say that Toronto just got lucky last night?
I would say they escaped, but they also earned it. I don't think there weren't any goals that were sour notes for me as far as, those breakaways were pretty blatant and that needs to be fixed. But the goals that Toronto scored were goals that Toronto earned. They were not goals that were given by the Jets defense the way that, and I hate to keep throwing Beaulieu under the bus, but the way he did in the last game with Hyman's goal so early in the game to set the tone, they've earned every other goal since that moment, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I really think that what Winnipeg needs to do is earn more goals. I don't think that letting in 4 goals against this kind of a Toronto Maple Leafs team on 38 shots is terrible. I think it needs to be fixed, yes, but I don't think it's terrible. So looking at these numbers in front of us here, because I've been up there for a bit, I got Winnipeg in 9th place, even though they're technically in 7th overall, because that points percentage, man. Those games in hand matter. There's still 2 games in hand on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So if they can manage to win tomorrow, they will move up to 36 points. So they'll be 4 points behind the Toronto Maple Leafs and still have 2 games in hand. Pretend, let for argument's sake, they win the next 2 games against Montreal, since they're coming back to Winnipeg to do that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that you're tied with Toronto, who's number 1 in the league. You know what I mean? Like we have 2 games in hand on who is sitting in first.
Counting out the Jets, it showed last night finally, and I want you to finish what you were saying, but it just showed that, because I know we're running out of time here, but it just showed that last night that finally there's an elite team in the NHL, let it be in the Canadian division or south of the border, that is finally respecting the Jets and taking them seriously, Mark. Do you not agree?
I agree. And you want to talk people who should take people seriously is every single time you take the ice, you have to take your opponent seriously. Tampa Bay, who I have listed as the number 1 team in the league based on points percentage right now. Number 1 in the league. They played the Detroit Red Wings last night, who for me are, 29th or worse. Right? Detroit won that game 6-4. So, they were up 5-2. They made it closer than they needed to, but Detroit won the game, So don't count anybody out any given night. That said, there are teams that are just inherently more dangerous than others. But yeah, I think it's not time to panic when the Jets lose to a team, especially a team like Toronto. Don't panic. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. You know what? Since we're on the topic of Detroit Red Wings, I want all of our viewers, fans, readers to know that Mark Adam was invited to a camp by, I believe, Mr. Stan Bowman of the Detroit Red Wings. I want everybody to know that.
Scotty.
And Yes, I want everybody to know that. That's how we lead Mark. He knows hockey. I know he doesn't brag about it, but I tell everybody that story about one of my friends, Mark Adam, and even your colleagues. I have to let all our viewers know that you got invited to a training a camp from Stan Bowman. We're not going to call it anything
Scotty
else.
Bowman. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But I just
you deserve it.
Did you know that game last night? Speaking of Bowman and Detroit beat Tampa Bay last night 6-4.
6-4. And Tampa Bay's not
there is 70 goals difference between them. If you talk goal differential, the Tampa Bay Lightning are plus 36. And the Detroit Red Wings are minus 34, or were before last night's games. You know, so obviously it's a 2 points closer now, but that's 70 goals difference. That's the difference between the top of the league and the bottom of the league. 70 goals for and or against. That's the difference. It's so huge. And I think Carolina and the New York Islanders right now, going back to this top 10, look at the column on the right, speaks volumes. 8-1-1 are Tampa Bay right now, but Carolina on a 7-game winning streak, and they're 7-3-0 in their last 10.
Paul Maurice's old team, so it doesn't surprise me that somebody connected to Paul Maurice and the team he's coaching now is a team that is going to be there, right? You know, there's something there. There's something there from Coach Pomo.
Yeah, it's just crazy. 7-3-0 in their last 10, but they're on a 7-game winning streak. Islanders also on a 7-game winning streak. Those two teams are the hottest in the NHL right now. The absolute worst has to be the 8-game losing streak of the Buffalo Sabres. So I know last time I talked about who cares, Detroit, Buffalo, Ottawa, pick a team, but I'm picking Buffalo. They have proven by far that they are the least hot team in all of the NHL, possibly professional sports. 8-game losing streak right now for them. That's rough. They're 1-7-2. 1-7-2 in their last 10. Six wins on the entire season, and they have a minus 27 goal differential. So I know last time I wasn't sure who I was going to pick. I just threw 3 teams out there. But honestly, the Buffalo Sabres are by far the worst team in the league right now.
Let me ask you my last question.
And we got no time left. Let's go.
Do you think Morgan Riley is so excited that he left Buffalo at this point? He's writing a letter with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Also, I got to give you one more. Was it a revenge game last night for Zach Bogosian?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. I guess so. I think Bogosian is so moved past that, and I think the Winnipeg fan base and the club and everybody is so past that, and so much has changed in Winnipeg since he left that
you're right.
You know what I mean? Like forget Bogosian is my point.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. Like,
so
I think it's a distant memory. Like, you know, you're like an ex-girlfriend kind of thing.
We have already talked about Bogosian more than he deserves to be talked about on this episode. Let's just leave it. Let's go. Thank you very much to our sponsor. Again, I really appreciate Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. They're wonderful to us, so we appreciate them greatly. Don't forget, you can follow us on all the socials, WPG Magazine, or the WPG Magazine on all of them. YouTube, wpg.news/YouTube. Do like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Spread the word, share away. And if you want to be featured on this episode, or next episode, you can be. Call us on the WPG Sports Line, 431-800-4555. Leave us a message. What do you think about the Jets, specific players, whatever your thoughts on Winnipeg sports are. If you want to talk about the Bombers and how the XFL and the CFL have come up with some sort of partnership, how crazy is that? I know, I can see your face. I'm blowing your mind right now. Look it up. I'm not lying. The XFL and the CFL have entered they're talking partnership. So The Rock could be landing back in Canada, have something to do with those Calgary Stampeders that cut him.
That's right. $7 in his pocket.
Anyway, so if you want to talk about that, we want to talk about it. If you're a Valor FC fan or you're a fan of the CPL, you want to talk about Rob Gale and what he's doing with the Valor FC. We want to hear your thoughts. Call us 431-800-4555. Call the WPG Sports line. Leave us a message, and we can use those messages on future episodes to sort of make sure that you're heard. We're fans talking about sports, and we want to talk to other fans, and you are those other fans. So get at us. We appreciate you. We really, really do. And if you want to advertise on the show, send an email to ads@thewpg.ca or call us at 431-489-2401. We'd greatly appreciate it. For the WPG and the LZ Sports Show, I am Mark Adam. This is Keith McKnight over here. And we are out of here until next time.